The Tears of Gaia by Redback Spino. Chapter 21. Burying Friends in Nursing Woods. Book 3. So the tide of battle turns. Pillars of smoke arose from among the trees that survived us once more. But this was not the smoke from the flames of disaster or battle, but from the fires of 100 funeral pyres. The branches of Austere were dotted with thousands of tiny figures, griffin and deerfolk alike, standing on the high platforms, along the stairways and bridges, even simply perched among the branches themselves, watching in silence as the fires consumed the bodies of all those killed in battle. Griffins and deer, laid out in separate pyres, which crackled and blazed in the low dusk light. In front of the pyres stood King Gideon, Gordon, and the White Hart, who watched them burn. As they burned, Gideon spoke in a loud voice, a eulogy in the language of his people. Shalom, brothers von Skavihimoldia. Otto som Kazaka, Kiga Fantia, Bifator Sentel, Alietian Simpi Habit, Viatoton Himlan, Nasorosa Abasta, Tasti Di Padis, Eurostin Salia, Attica Sato. Sleep, brother, sleep, at the heaven's doors. Beyond which thy warriors await. Be reborn from thy steel, all thy wounds be healed. From earth to the sky, now sons of steel arise. Take thy place in paradise, for thy soul shall never die. As he finished his eulogy, he raised a clenched fist above his head, shouting in his booming voice, Hail to the victorious dead! Ever shall we fight in their name! Hail! Came the roaring reply from every griffin present, who raised their fists to the sky in unison. The assembled host of creatures stood in silence, save for the sobbing of those who had lost family or friends, until the moon rose over the pyres, which burnt low until they were smoldering pieces of ash. When at last the pyres burnt out, the White Hart turned to a face austere, and every eye turned to look at him. In a clear voice he said, We shall keep those who have fallen forever in our memory and in our hearts. However, while this is also a time of mourning for our fallen brothers and sisters, and our brethren amongst the griffins, I feel they would not want this to be a night of sadness. He's right! Gideon added. Let's not think of this as a lamenting of their deaths, but celebrating their lives, and the lives that they have saved by bringing us victory over our mighty foe. So come, my noble hawks, let the celebration begin! With a mighty cheer went up from among the griffins, and even the deerfolk joined in. They were right. With all due respect to the fallen, this was also a night of victory and celebration, and celebrate they did. Within the hour, all of Austere was lit up as torches burned in many colors, and music rang out from every platform. Feast tables were set up anywhere and everywhere, laden with all manner of food and drink. Wine, beer, and fruit juices poured from enormous barrels. And of course, there was food and drink in griffins. There were contests. Who could pile their plate the highest? Who could drink the fastest? Who could eat the most? And none could hope to outdo Rarity and Gellert's now famous competition. And on one of the lower platforms, sitting at a table of their own, were 7 pony friends. As they dined and drank their fills, they told stories of all that had happened since they were separated. Fireside, Rainbow Dash, and Applejack's tormenting at the hands of Moggoth and his crew, and the rescue from Maud Hill, their time with the deerfolk, the parts they played in the defense of the capital, and the rest of the ponies also related their tales of adventures with the griffins of Fazir. The 3 listened with wide eyes as Rarity told of her tale of the contest against Geller. And even now, I have no idea how she did it, Twilight said, but in a flash he was behind Rarity, and she bucked him square in the ribs and sent him flying. Ha! Never knew you had it in you, Applejack laughed, slapping Rarity heartily on the back. I'll pay to say that, the delicate fancy Rarity going hoot the paw of a griffin. Ahem, that's Commander Rarity, thank you, Rarity replied with a smirk, gesturing to her helmet, which lay on the table beside her. Fireside smiled. That helmet really does suit you, Rarity, and it's really wonderful to see you all again. There were a few times when I really feared the worst. Sarswell nodded, putting down his flagon. I think we could all sympathize, Fluttershy. And yet, here we are again. Still alive and well. By the way, Rainbow asked, any idea what happened to Tharos? I think he ended up teleporting away with you four. The awkward silence that followed pretty much told Rainbow all she needed to know. The jolly smiles on everybody's faces faded. Finally, Pinky spoke up.
He didn't make it.
Fluttershy gasped, her forehead covering her mouth in shock. Rainbow lowered her head. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, Pinky replied. He at least seemed kind of happy when he passed on. Twilight, Star Swirl, and Rarity and I were all with him.
Ah, well, okay. Oh, that's good, I guess. No pony spoke for a moment, as the rather sad realization sunk in. The silence was broken only as Applejack raised her flagon up. Here's the Tharos, for being one heck of a great dragon! The others raised their drinks also, clinking them together and drinking deeply to Tharos' memory. Luckily, Rarity, being the master socialite as she was, knew exactly how to break the ice.
So, Fluttershy,
she asked Rudy again,
do tell whatever is going on between you and that young stag we saw you with earlier.
Fluttershy squeaked, thus really trying to hide her blushing face.
Oh my, it's, oh goodness.
She shrank down in a chair and the others giggled.
It's all right, Fluttershy. I'm not judging you or anything. Indeed, he is a rather handsome fellow.
The Pegasus smiled.
Well, yes, I guess he is that. So, how did you two meet? Well, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, do you remember when we were first rescued from the fort by that deer?
Applejack nodded. Yeah, kinda hard to forget. That was the night you used your stare on those two blacklists, as I recall. Oh yeah! Rainbow added. That was awesome! Star Swirl scratched his beard. The stare.
I'll tell you later, Twilight replied. So, go on, you were saying.
First I took another swig of her drink.
Well, when we were first captured, I heard a voice, his voice, saying that he helped us get us free. Then, we were being held prisoner in the White's fort. The deer folk attacked and set us free. I suppose Yarrow, he saved my life that night.
Rarity smiled.
Oh, how romantic! Your guided savior coming to your rescue! So after that, he took us back to Servatus and they took care of us. He and I spent some time together and I guess I just started to, like him.
And does he, like you back? Pinky asked.
I think so,
she replied. Applejack nudged her playfully. Oh, come on! I saw you and Huggum back there. That look he gave you when you were leaving, that stag's mean for sure! If possible, Fluttershy blessed an even deeper shade of red. Pinky hugged her close, patting her on the head.
Aww, our dear little Fluttershy's growing up! I'm older than you, Pinky.
While the others playfully teased Fluttershy, Twilight and Star Swirl turned to each other. You're awfully quiet, Star Swirl, Twilight said. Anything wrong? Not wrong, my dear Twilight, he replied, taking his pipe out again and lighting it. I'm just pondering to myself. The Blight may have been driven back from Servatus, but they are hardly defeated. Even with the number of casualties they suffered, they still numbered in the thousands, and I'd be willing to bet that their dark stronghold, there are thousands more waiting. So what do you suppose we do now? I mean, we're all back together. We still have the Tears, and the Blight shouldn't be in trouble for a while, Twilight replied. Then again, I don't know how I feel about leaving now. Nils Dally nodded. I know what you mean. I'm not sure what the Griffins and Deerfolk plan to do next, but leaving them to do it to themselves now, it does seem it would be bad form. They were interrupted by as a young Griffin in uniform approached the table, courteously. I have a message for Commander Rarity, courtesy of Green Gideon and the White Heart. He handed a small note to Rarity, tipped his hat, and looked without another word. Rarity held the note in her magical grip and unfolded. Her eyes started back and forth as she read the scratching writing, her smile slipping in knots. What's it say? Applejack asked.
It's a summons for a meeting tomorrow. The commanders from the Griffins and Deerfolk are meeting to discuss the next plans, and I guess that includes me.
Rainbow frowned. I guess that means we're not going home.
I'm not sure. I suppose we'll just have to see what they say tomorrow,
Rarity replied with a shrug.
I suppose commanding one's own army does have its drawbacks.
Pinky looked around at our faces sitting around the table with dismay. Never wanted to just stand around while ponies are feeling glum. She looked at her hooves. Well, we can worry about that tomorrow. But for now, come on, everybody. There's a party going on. If that dance floor is downstairs, it's calling my name. Miss Pie is right, Star Swirl said, getting up and donning his hat. How about we save the grim mood for some actual grim news? But for tonight is a time of celebration. So in parlance of your times, let us party. The moon lightened considerably as a band of Griffin musicians played a merry jig with music raising the ponies. With Pinky leading the way, the ponies left their table and joined the party.
Maybe I could tell them another of my epic ballads, Pinky mused up loud. I never did get to finish the tale of the shining shield.
Oh, come on, Pinky! Rainbow groaned. They just got out of a war. Don't you think they suffered enough? And so the party was joined, also the night falling to a hazy blur of music and merriment. Rainbow and Applejack wowed the crowds with the most intense hoof wrestling any beast had ever seen. Applejack's strong hooves eventually won the game, but as a sign of good grace, she shared her drink with the defeated Rainbow Dash. Nursing her pride, she knew the way it would work, with copious amounts of cider. Geller jokingly challenged Rarity to a rematch at their fatal facing contest, the eager eyes of dozens of griffins watching, waiting for a spectacle. But the unicorn, ever the demure lady, politely turned him down, instead offering to simply join him for dinner. He accepted, and the two dined at their own table, with all the dignity and grace of a high society banquet. And the dancing. Oh, how they danced. Pinky completely wowed the dance floor, leading griffins and deers alike in jigs, two-steps, hornpipes, and even a time warp or two. Twilight and Starswirl danced together, desperately trying to keep up with the hyperactive pink pony, the old stallion's long cloak flapping this way and that. And when Yarrow sheepishly approached Fluttershy, who stood on the sidelines of the dance clapping along to the music, even she could overcome her nerves and accept his offer of a dance. Okay, who's seeing Fluttershy clapping, looking very adorable? Neither of them were the best of dancers, admittedly, but they enjoyed the moment altogether nonetheless. By the time the midnight hour rolled about, the whole of Ulster was still awake and partying long and hard. But as 7 exhausted ponies made their good nights, an eerily white glow appeared at the end of the crowd. The revelers parted, revealing none other than the White Heart himself. He bade the party to continue, and the griffins and deer alike needed no second bidding. "Off the bed, are we?" he called, as he approached the ponies. Twilight bowed her head. "Yes, your majesty. Your deer put together a wonderful party, but I think we're all ready for a good night's sleep." He smiled. "I think I completely understand. I just wanted to find you before you disappeared to wish you a good night, and to thank you." "Well, thank us? What for?" Applejack asked.
"Why, for everything," the White Heart replied. "You 3 ponies aided us in the battle against the Phenom, and every contribution helps. As for you 4,
he gestured to Pinky, Twilight, Rarity, and Starswirl.
If it weren't for you and your griffin friends arriving when you did, Australia itself may not be standing now. I admit, the griffins of my people have never seen eye to eye, and I probably would have never asked for their aid myself. But they proved indispensable, and for leading them here, I am grateful."
"That was all thanks to Rarity," Pinkie Pie replied, nudging her unicorn friend forward. Rarity smiled bashfully, but bowed gracefully as well.
"It was nothing, really. What else could I have done, knowing my friends were in peril?" "And you have my eternal gratitude, Rarity." Whiteheart bowed back, the tips of his enormous antlers almost touching the ponies. "And I will see you at the council meeting tomorrow. But until then, au revoir, fier, million." The 7 ponies bowed once more, with Fluttershy giving an au revoir, fier in reply. But as they turned their heads to their cars, the Whiteheart called out once more, "Oh, and Fluttershy." Fluttershy turned around. Yes?" "I also have a message I was bidden to give you, courtesy of young Yarrow," he said with a serene smile. "He wishes for you to have a good night, and hopes you will join him for lunch tomorrow." For the 3rd time that night, Fluttershy could not hide the flush of crimson on her cheeks. "Oh, well, just tell him I said thank you, and I'm going to join him for lunch."
He nodded, and bade them good night one last time, letting them take their leave for the night, back to the little cottage. One soundproofing spell later, and the 7 ponies were fast asleep, full bellies and happy hearts. The same, however, could not be said for Morgoth, who, for the first time since the siege began, felt his legs buckle beneath him as he sat down, panting like a dog. Great clouds of blackness billowed from his mouth and nostrils with every gasp for air. All around him, the few dozen soldiers that had survived the battle similarly slumped down amid draggled heap all about the place. The ground was rocky and dry, a far cry from the lost soft undergrowth of the forest of Servatus, but a flat surface to rest upon was all they cared about, licking their wounds and cursing their ill fortune. "Does someone care to enlighten me on just what in Hellfire's name happened back there?" An altogether gruff voice snarled through the night air. Mongoth turned around to look over his shoulders at Dursala glaring back up. You've got eyes, don't you? Mongoth spat back at the commander. Those cousin critters came out of nowhere and slaughtered us! And even without those feathered pests, we weren't exactly doing the best of jobs of restoring the forest! Glocka added. What are you talking about? Dursala replied, standing up. We had them cornered. The barricades destroyed. We had them! Glocka snarled back. Yeah! At the expense of almost a quarter of our entire forces! Bit of a hefty sacrifice for one forest! We lost Gallop, Shatters, Athos, and scores of others from our group alone! And from what I hear, the other fronts didn't exactly do fare too well either! Exactly! Came another voice from the knob. You're pretty much the only commander left alive, Dursala! Which means you are to blame for all this, Mongoth added, getting up on his hooves again. Dursala's for me! I was just following orders, and you failed! The Blind Things fell silent as the sonorous echo voice spoke up. They looked around for a source, and when they saw it, their blood ran cold. Glocka lay flat on his back, limbs twitching and spasming. His eyes rolled back in his head. His mouth lay wide open. From within emerged an enormous black cloud of a black smoky substance. It formed to the cloud above the assembled soldiers, swirling and billowing in some ghostly breeze, and the two enormous yellow eyes peered down from the black miasma. Dursala bowed his head low, knees quivering. My lord! Dursala! Ah, son, the voice rumbled. When I sent you to egg Mogoth, it was with the idea that together you could overthrow Savanas and reclaim our prisoners. But my lord! Hush! Dursala! Let us finish. And even with this weighty responsibility, you have failed us. And not only that, but you have lost almost 1,000 of our children as well. I was just following your orders, Dursala sounded back. I had no idea Griffiths were coming. We had almost had the deal defeated. Mongoth raised a hoof. I'd just like to point out, my lord, that I was against this idea from the start. I knew attacking Savannah's head-on was a foolish idea, but would Dursala listen? No, sir! Silence! Mogoth! The voice roared. You are just to blame as he is. If it weren't for your blambling and losing the prisoners, the whole operation might have rolled smoother from the start. You have already failed us twice. We shall ensure you will not fail again. I won't, my lord. I won't. I promise! Mongoth cried, bowing lower and lower in supplication. We would have the pair of you killed for your failings, the voice continued. However, given the results of this dangerous battle, we need as many of our children as possible ready and be able to fight. So, we will be lenient. Dursala and Mongoth looked to each other, dead to the miasma above, nearly weeping relief. Thank you, my lord. Thank you. We are not finished. They said we may be lenient, not that we will spare you both. No, we will spare only one of you. Dursala got only one? Yes, the voice replied. One will live and be allowed to serve us directly as a personal attendant. The other, however, will be dead before the night is over. Which one of you that is entirely up to you. The two commanders looked at each other again, realization dawning on their snarly faces. Drop your weapons and shed your armor. Then decide for yourselves which one of you may survive. The eyes faded to a ruddy glow within the cloud as the voice fell silent. Mongoth and Dursala stood frozen on the spot for a moment. Then, as quick as a flash, the pair of them ripped off their cloaks and armor, threw their weapons to the side, and rushed straight for each other. The first blow went to Dursala, who glanced out with his claws, slashing a long glass across Mongoth's face. He reeled back, rivers of blood pouring down his face. Wiping it from his eyes, Mongoth snarled like a wild animal, punching with his forelegs, catching the blithely that was once a Griffith, once in the chest, and again in the cheek. But the larger creature was not ready to back down. Lunging back at him, his claws wrapping around Mongoth's head. Mongoth fell back to the ground, forehoofs feebly pushing against his foe, gasping for air as Dursala grip tightened around his back. He struggled and wiggled, but to no avail, As the wing blazing squeezed tighter and tighter, Mongo's vision began to grow blurry and dark. With one final burst of strength, he kicked up with his hind legs. Instead, he just saw a big flying head over tail, flying right into his head and landing on his back. Dustin panted and wheezed, but managed to get back up again, only for Mongo to land on his back, once more pinning him to the ground. He swung his forelegs at Dustin's head, slamming into the skull. Once! Twice! Thrice! I never forget to use the word thrice much in these. But in a brief window where he stopped to catch his breath, Dustin had all the time he needed. Rolling on his back, Mongo toppling off of him. Once again, Dustin leaned over him, holding the white-haired Wyvern down by his neck. Mongo strained to get his grip, but Dustin's claws were like vices, slowly crushing his windpipe. The big monster leaned in close, whispering, "Got nothing to say? Come on, wise guy, let's hear some last words." Mongo opened his mouth, but not to reply. Instead, he spat full into Dustin's right eye, setting him recoiling once again, desperate to clean his eyes out. Mongo saw his chance and took it. Bucking upwards with his hind legs again, he caught Dustin square in the jaw, the force of the kick heaving him into the air and flying back for his feet. He needed no second bidding. He had to end this fight now. His life depended on it. Leaping to his hooves, Mongo leapt upon the Protosaur and pummeled away with him with everything he had. Hooves, legs, even his head. He punched, kicked, bucked, and jabbed at Dustin's head, sending it slamming into the hard crown again and again. He grunted with every blow, snarls and growls growing to a fever pitch until he was roaring and screaming with every strike. His own adrenaline and rage driving him berserk. After what seemed like a lifetime, Mongo finally stopped striking. He could never feel Dustin trying to lift his head up after every blow. Instead, he could no longer feel a head at all. As the red mist faded from his vision, he could see clearly again. Looking down at his opponent, he saw that somehow, in his rage, he had reduced Dustin's head to something that resembled a smashed watermelon. Mongo stood up, his limbs shaking with exhaustion once more, and wiped his dripping hooves on the ground. The yellow eyes emerged from the black cloud up above. "Very well done," it said. "It seems that despite our best efforts, you are still some use to us all." "Thank you, my lord," he continued. "Now, get up. Let's wait for Berserker on the double. We will put you to good use, where we can keep a very close eye on you. And remember, since you tried to flee, we can contact you at any time if we find that you are heading anywhere except Berserker. We will not hesitate to kill you and your soldiers. Is that clear?" Vividly, Mongo gritted his teeth, his voice barely containing his anger. "Very good. See you soon," the voice said, as the eyes faded one last time and the cloud of brightness dissolved, soaring back into Laga and vanishing from sight. There was silence among the group as they all looked to their commander, or to the red stain on the ground that used to be their other commander. "Well, you guys heard the old father. On your feet. Let's get moving." Mongo hurried to Mongo's side. "So that's it. You're just going with what he says. You're just going to let him walk all over you and make you his slave?" For the first time since the beginning of the siege, Mongo grinned his toothy, pointed grin. "Oh, Laga, my old friend, you can be so trusting sometimes." "Of course I'm not." Looking over his shoulder, he saw that the soldiers were back on the hooves, claws, paws, or whatever, ready to go. "I'm forming a new plan as we speak. Once we get back to Berserker, I can put it to action. Just you wait. Before this war is over, I will be back into control of everything." "But what about the weapon we were after? We still going after the Tears?" "Of course," Mongo replied, just leading through from a slow jog. "But for now, keep your head down and wait. You know when things are done." With that, Mongo tapped a hoof to the snout. Laga nodded, tapping his as well. The two turned back to face forwards. With any luck, they'd be home by tomorrow evening. And then it would all begin.